Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And at the very top of the show, as ever, we have some music news. Joy, do you have some music news?
I do, and I sent this to Tim, so he kind of just knew what I was talking about because it's random. And we can thank Charles for this, my husband. He mentioned it to me as well, and I had seen it. So Duolingo, which me and Tim have both talked about, we use for language learning. I use it to keep up with my French skills. Tim wants to, I don't know what his goal is, but I think he just wants to learn. You're Swedish, right?
Yeah, I'm still learning Swedish. I'm 260 something days into Swedish. I have no end goal for it. I'm not going to live in Sweden. I mean, I may visit there again at some point, but it's not somewhere that I've got any plans to visit. I just used to go to Sweden a number of times in the past, picked up a little bit of the language, and I'm just doing it for fun, really. I mean, there's no goal with it. I just spend a few minutes every day just learning these words and phrases, and I don't know, I just like doing it.
I am at 233.
There you go.
In order to, you guys can't see this, guys, but I still haven't fixed my camera. Poor Tim sees a blur every 5 minutes. But anyway, so with that being said, in order to, I just do it because I like to keep up with my language skills. Also, it's good for your brain, you know, and it's fun. And me and my twin sister, we both make sure we hit 10,000 steps a day. So we challenge each other to that and send each other updates. And we both do our Duolingo. So physical and mental health, Tim, they're both important.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of that. But anyway, the reason that this comes up, people are like, okay, and what this has to do with what? So Duo is going to teach people how to play music. They're going to take their app and use with their skills that they kind of already do with language, which if you're not using Duo, you get little quizzes and different like lessons you do. Some of them are books, some of them are matching, some of them are just general questions. And there's like a little practice place you can go to and check like your verbiage and things like that. So they're going to take that kind of thing where you spend a few minutes a day, 5 to 10 minutes a day, tops, and refresh your skills. And I actually think I am going to do it, Tim, because I sometimes shock myself because I haven't looked at music in a long time.
Now, are they talking about just learning musical instruments or learning music theory and notation and that sort of
theory? So you'll be able to learn like a grandstand, you'll be able to learn a half note, a whole note, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And also you'll be able to probably learn like what a treble clef is and a bass clef and all those good things. So it's teaching you how to read music.
Maybe something I could do. I have absolutely no idea when it comes to reading music at all. I mean, I understand a treble clef and a bass clef and half notes and quarter notes or minims and crotchets or however you want to talk about
time
it.
Signatures, and all that kind of stuff.
How that relates to the music I play every week with the band, I have no idea.
Tim's like, and I love this because like, in my mind, I find it very funny because I feel like people just assume when they know you, they'll be like, oh, he's probably really good at music theory. And then you're like, nope, not even a little bit.
No, I remember years ago when mobile phones were in their infancy and one of them had an editor where you could do ringtones. And this wasn't when you could sort of upload a WAV file or an MP3 file. This was like MIDI files with blips and blops, and it came with an editor. And I've got this stave on the screen and I've got a guitar in my hand. And I was like, I have no idea how these two things interact with each other. I just do not know how to get my tune I want onto this screen using these notes. I'm clueless.
So for me, I think my first time I started was that I was in first grade, which means you're 6 years old in America. I don't know what that's equivalent to in the UK for our UK listeners, but I was 6. I took me and my twin sister both started taking piano lessons then. And I still remember, what is it? All the little, so when you're learning where your notes are, like on your A, your E, your F, your G, whatever is on this, like it would be like, all elephants go west, or go east or something. Like there was just little ad libs that we would learn. So I imagine some of that will probably be in the Duo thing. But yeah, but when I started taking like vocal lessons and I was in choirs and stuff, the real big thing that people may not realize it's a very simple thing is when you're looking at the staff as the notes go up, your voice is going up, and as the notes go down, your voice is going down. I mean, that's really what it comes down simply as far as singing goes. And then you get into more detail and, if you want to learn harmonies. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'll probably do it. Apparently, there's also a Duo Math app, Tim. I didn't know about that.
No, I read that in the article. I'd never heard of it. I mean, I know Duolingo is the language thing. I didn't know if it's anything to do with maths.
Well, I imagine they're trying to expand. They have a pretty big social media following, Duolingo does. If you guys have never seen the Duolingo owl, whoever, I actually know who she is. She's on my LinkedIn. But the person behind Duolingo social media is a genius. Like, yes, because it's marketing without marketing, which is the best kind for a company. And like the owl, like on social media is like, there's like little jokes of him threatening you if you don't, if you lose your streaks and different things like that. So there's like little hints of, hey, get in there and do your duo. So there you go. But anyway, so I will download it when it's available in the Android market and let you guys know.
Yeah, I said, maybe it's something I should do because it's a complete different world that I'm not familiar with that kind of stuff.
I'll be like, Tim, what's this note? Is that a whole note? Is that a half note? Is that a quarter note? Go. What's the dot mean? Tim's going to be like, I hate this game. I'm done.
Yeah.
He's like, do not do this to me. Anyway, so cool enough. Now, I have some personal news that I'm sure Tim thought I was going to bring up. I brought it to Tim the other day. Joy has decided she wants to go back to school. So for those who don't know, I do currently have a bachelor's degree, but I'm looking to go into graduate school. I also have my SHRM certification in HR, which is pretty much equivalent to a master's degree in human resources. That's kind of the general term for it. But I am currently studying to take my LSATs. Since I was a small child, I always wanted to go into law. So I finally paid the fee. So now I have to take the test. So in theory, I have to study so I could pass that test. Because that's how I got myself to do my SHRM. I was like, if I pay for this, I'm passing it. Because these tests are not cheap, Tim. Not by a long off. But they're still, like, SHRM was a whole lot cheaper than getting my master's degree. That's for sure. In America. Though I'm about to, hopefully if I get a JD at the end of my name, I'm going to go into further debt. Maybe I'll get some scholarships. Who knows? Now, I do want to be I am more interested in the defendant side versus the prosecutor. I have no interest in like being a DA or anything of that nature. But, whatever will be, will be. I do have obviously an interest in labor law, and that's where my background is. So I could stay in that realm. And I have a cousin who owns a company that does that. Maybe I'll hit his name, ironically, is Charles, too. So maybe in about 2 to 3 years, I'll see if he's hired.
Well, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great that you can finally get to do something that you've always wanted to do. I mean, at this point for me, I don't know if I'd have the time or the energy to do that, to be honest with you. But hats off to you, Joy. I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you, Tim. I am very much somebody who has been thinking about it for a long time, toyed with the idea. As a small child, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And I have an obsession everybody has an obsession with true crime nowadays, I think. But mine's more of an interest in the actual law side of it versus just people who like to listen to murder podcasts when they go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a small child, I just wanted to work at McDonald's so I could get free food. But I mean, you have much bigger ambitions than I had when I was younger.
All through high school, I was convinced I was going to be a lawyer too. And then I got out of college and I'm like, I need a break. I don't want to go back to school. So yeah, what's what happened? All right, Tim. Well, I think you have a few things for the people.
Yeah, I have some music news. So very sad this week. We had to say goodbye to Jimmy Buffett. I couldn't believe it when that news came through about Jimmy Buffett. I mean, the guy was only 76, which in modern terms for a well-to-do chap like him, I mean, that's no age at all. The interesting thing about Jimmy Buffett is he's such a cultural icon in the United States. He sort of created this entire lifestyle brand around him. Now, of course, he's been famous since the 70s with his kind of sort of beachy calypso, folky type music, and the song Cheeseburger in Paradise, Margaritaville, and Fins, and all those songs that everybody knows. And that kind of music is heavily ingrained in US culture. And he's spun it out into this lifestyle brand with the Margaritaville restaurants. I think he's got a liquor business. New
marketing.
Yeah, liquor businesses.
And he doesn't drink. Did you know that, Tim? He never drank.
Yeah, I read that.
Like, he doesn't drink Margaritaville and all this, and he never drank.
Yeah, and also like Margaritaville has been spun out into there's several Margaritaville retirement communities. There's hotels now. He's got those Land Shark restaurant chain. I mean, it's this huge lifestyle brand. He apparently was worth $1 billion when he died, from mostly from these business interests. But the interesting thing about Jimmy Buffett is that in the UK, he's virtually unheard of. And if anyone's heard of Jimmy Buffett, they would know him as, oh, that's the restaurant guy when I went to Florida.
So do you think anything's changed? Do you think maybe he's more popular now than he was, or is it just he's just an American icon?
I think he's just an American icon. Like, you know, my mum comes here to visit. She comes here to see me. And as a result, she's been to a number of Margaritaville restaurants, because something I really love is overpriced chain restaurants. That's one of my big passions, whether it be a Hard Rock or whether it be a Margaritaville. There's something great about paying 3 times over the odds for diner food in a theme restaurant. I don't know what it is, but you know, it really appeals to me. So we've been to a number of Margaritavilles, so she's aware of that. And when I called her the other day and I said that Jimmy Buffett had died, she said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Did that make the news?" And she's like, "No."
What? You think it would have at least made the news?
No, didn't make the news at all.
That's so weird to me. Well, any of our UK listeners, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts on Jimmy Buffett is. And I have 2 friends who are huge, what they call parrot heads. That's just what they call them. And like one of them has a fins up license plate. Their house is decked out in all the gear. They've been to 3 or 4 of his concerts. They were very sad to see this one happen, but he has a very dedicated, and I was clicking a pin. Sorry guys, if you heard that, habit. But with that being said, he has a cult following. Like they followed his whole career and kind of dedicated a space in their life for it. As much as I hate to say this, because in my episode about what not to make your wedding song, their wedding song was, well, no, it wasn't. I lie. Just ignore that last statement. They had it played, but it wasn't their wedding song.
There we go.
But with that being said, they dedicated a whole space to their life and made sure he was in their wedding, but he wasn't their wedding song.
Yeah, because I mean, like here in the state of Virginia, you can get parrot heads themed license plates for your car issued by the DMV.
Yeah, and it says fins up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing. But I said it's terribly sad. Jimmy Buffett, I said he was 76. He died from a very rare kind of skin cancer, apparently, and he'd been battling that for about 4 years. But yeah, nobody really knew. I mean, he had some new music that was supposed to be coming out, and I think Paul McCartney had actually played bass on his new album that hasn't even come out yet.
That's cool. And what's weird, he's for someone who markets himself and has this stereotype about him, his personal life seems very quiet. None of us knew about any of this.
No one really did at all. I did see one thing that did make me smile about Jimmy Buffett, though, you know, because people with all their tributes and what have you. I didn't realize that he appeared in Jurassic World, which is one of the Jurassic Park spin-off films. Yeah. And in that film, there is a Margaritaville restaurant, apparently, that's in the Jurassic World. And he is in the film for 250 milliseconds, 1/4 of a second. It's a cameo appearance, blink and you miss it. And someone slowed it down. And the dinosaur is just about to tackle the people in the Margaritaville restaurant. And you see him, he picks up 2 margarita glasses, sips one of them, and then runs holding them. And it all happens in 1/4 of a second. It is so funny. Cool.
I mean, that sounds hilarious. I've never seen it. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't a Jurassic Park fan. Were you a Jurassic Park fan, Tim?
I like the first one, and I've seen that one maybe once or twice, but yeah, not really.
Don't come for me, internet, but I've seen the original, and I didn't really seek anything further out. Just wasn't for me. If you love it, love what you love. I'm not judging you. I just was never a Jurassic Park person.
No, not really for me. But there we are. We celebrate you, Jimmy Buffett. Rock in peace. Your legacy will last for a long time because there's all this Margaritaville stuff out there, and you will be remembered for decades and decades after the fact.
Fair enough. All right, Tim, what you got next?
Okay, so the Rolling Stones have a new album coming out. I think I may have covered it in a previous music news episode, but they've released a title. It's going to be called Hackney Diamonds. And it doesn't come out yet. I believe it comes out, let me have a look in this article, in October the 20th it comes out. The interesting thing for me is that the promotion for it only has 3 Rolling Stones in it because there's only really 3 originals left. And even Ronnie Wood is not an original Rolling Stones. It's Mick, Keith, and Ronnie. All the other guys in the band are incredibly talented session people who are not members of the band.
Do they use the same session people typically, or have they had like the same kind of setup for a while, you think? Or is it just
they've had the same bass player. I forget what the guy's name, Daryl something. He replaced Bill Wyman, decades ago, and he's been their steady bass player. And then when we lost Charlie Watts, the guy who filled in for him, I think, was recommended by Charlie when he was when he was not doing well. He said, "Oh, you want to use so and so because he has the feel for this," and that's been the guy they've been using ever since. But they never make these new people members of the band. They're paid employees. They're not a member of the band. So as I said, when you just see the 3 of them. And that's it. There's just 2 really Rolling Stones left, or 3 if you count Ronnie Wood.
It's like when I saw the Village People. There was only 2 that were original members, and I'm pretty sure when I saw my parents in the Beach Boys, there was only 1. Sadly, that's just. I mean, I kind of get it because you want to keep the organic side of what the band was. Mm-hmm. And yes, you want to still keep making music, but like to make them an official member of the band, it's kind of a different level.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I was going to say they did reveal they did a question and answer session with Jimmy Fallon of all people. I'd imagine Jimmy Fallon's bored because he's not working right now because of the writers' strike. Because there hasn't been any late night TV shows in the US for months and months because of the writers' strike. So he was in London for this big launch of the album. So they said that the album's called Hackney Diamonds, and he asked them why Hackney Diamonds, and they said, well, we went through a few names. One of the names they were thinking about was Smash and Grab, and another one was called Hit and Run. And in the end, they came up with Hackney Diamonds. And they said, well, what's a Hackney Diamond? And Mick Jagger said, well, he said, if you're parked in Hackney and someone tries to break into your car and breaks your windscreen, if there's glass all over the floor, those little bits of glass, he said they're Hackney Diamonds.
And fair. Still doesn't tell me anything about the album, but okay. I'm sure Jimmy Fallon was like, interesting. I wonder if the album, though, is going to have some type of theme, because you said, like, what were the other options? Smash and Grab, Hit
and Run and stuff. I mean, who knows? I mean,
those are very similar things, so maybe that's where the theme of the album's going, or it has absolutely nothing to do with anything, which is like 90% of the albums out there.
I would imagine so. The other thing is that this album will feature Charlie Watts on 2 tracks, because 2 of the tracks were recorded in 2019. So whether this will be the last Stones album, who knows? The last album they did before this was A Bigger Bang, which I think was in 2005. So we're now in 2023, years after that. So could this be the final one? Who knows? I mean, they will keep going until we lose either Mick or Keith. And, long may they reign and continue to do what they do.
I'm convinced that Keith Richards is just literally like, I don't even know. If anyone, the whole Paul McCartney thing, I think it's Keith Richards. I don't think that I hate to say this, I don't think he's ever going to pass away. He literally, I don't want to say anything mean about him, but if you've ever seen him play on stage, like, I'm sorry, he's a little past his prime, but it seems like he just keeps going and going and going and going.
Oh, I mean, those guys will be 96, 97 years old, and they'll still be playing gigs as the Rolling Stones. I mean, they're just completely unstoppable at this point.
I guess the same thing's true about Mick Jagger, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, Keith Richards, if you guys haven't looked at him recently, just give him a Google while you're listening, and you'll see what I mean, and we'll leave it at that.
Exactly. Now, I do have one last music news story, and I think this is probably one that you can probably speak to, because this is probably more your era of music than mine. And Steve Harwell, the voice of the band Smash Mouth, we lost him this week, and he was only 56. So
I have seen Smash Mouth. Well, let me restate this. It wasn't all of Smash Mouth. It was just Steve Harwell with some backup members like Kevin Coleman, Gary Camp, Paula Lizzie, where none of those were there. but they played the Smash Mouth hits because he was the lead singer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually at Dr. Pepper Park a few years back. I don't remember if you remember when they came here, but so I have seen at least him live. He has a very interesting voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's almost like an Adam Levine in the way that it's like almost like naturally high pitched for a male, which works really well a lot in almost like pop punk kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
The lead singer of Bowling for Soup has the same type of voice. This one was really sad for me because, like you said, I could think of like at least 5 Smash Mouth songs, and in my head, randomly, it's just the way that she walks and the way that she talks, like it ain't no thing. Go through my head 24/7. It's very classic pop music with a little bit of punk to it, but they had to be worth some money though, because all of those songs were in every movie in the early 2000s. Like I swear, there's at least one good Smash Mouth song in every movie that came out in the early 2000s. It just worked. No, I will give you a little bit of a laugh, and I don't know what. I'm not here to bash this person, but I just want you to know that there was not a lot of people. There was a certain someone who put a tribute out for him that did not go over well. So Kim Kardashian. No. So in where it says all that glitters is gold, like the song line from so she posted, I think she thought from All Star, of course, the 1999 song, their biggest song, and it's famous that, every millennial knows every word to that song. She just posted a picture of her in a bikini that was gold, Tim. And all it said at the bottom of it is, all that glitters is gold. That was what she thought was a tribute.
Well, I mean, it's on brand. I mean, if nothing else.
Of course, if you go look at it, the comments were like, are you serious right now? Like, this was your idea of what you thought. Maybe, or she has no idea where that line comes from, and she just put it on there, and now she's getting all this backlash. So it's not like it's the first song that says all that glitters is gold, right?
No, absolutely not.
Or it's an old saying, right? All that glitters is gold. So maybe it's unrelated, but it just seemed a little too on the nose because it was the day after he passed away.
Absolutely. Maybe she was just clueless to it and was wearing a gold bikini and thought, I'm going to show this off today. And there we are. I don't know.
That's a pretty bad timing on her part.
Exactly.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny that I saw like 4 headlines today saying Kim Kardashian's tribute. I'm like, of all the people to do a tribute to Smash. Never thought those words were going to come out of my mouth. But yes, I was very sad to see this. And sadly, it sounds like he had some substance abuse issues, as that happens to people, and that's life. And those people, you know what I mean? It is what it is. It's just as sad regardless of what happens. And that's what, yeah. Because he was only in his 50s.
Yeah, 56. Very sad. Very young.
Yeah. And as I'm approaching the age, Tim, I don't like when the headlines of the people passing away are getting closer and closer to my own age.
Yeah, especially me. I'm not far from 50, for goodness sake.
Or 500. We'll never know.
Either works. Either works. Well, anyhow, rock in peace. And so let's get into the episode. So this week it's Joy's turn to pick the topic. As ever, I don't know what Joy has picked out. So over to you.
All right. So as always, me and Tim spent probably way more time in talking about our intros than we should have. But with that being said, this is an episode I'm very excited of. It's going to be kind of random. It's not going to be just like we give a song and we discuss it. This is one of our more far out episodes. Tim, it is VH1's pop-up music video episode.
Hey! I think this one has been a long time coming. I think
pop-up video.
Maybe you've spoken about pop-up music video and if not every episode, but certainly you either get Glee or pop-up music video in the episode somehow.
It's true. I attribute half of my music knowledge for my mother having me watch pop-up video, which I loved it. I'm not saying she made me watch it. It just played in our house a lot. And I still remember the first time I saw Bohemian Rhapsody was on pop-up music video. I don't know why that stands out to me. Probably because the iconic, music video, but which is behind Tim's head on a poster right now. But that video, was the first time I saw it. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I did a little bit of research. Now, this is going to be a pretty funny episode because I pulled some of like the funniest stuff they talked about.
Mhm.
So for those who don't know what pop-up music video is, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background. And then I'm just going to pull little nuggets that I thought were hilarious that me and Tim could talk about. And most of these are going to be pretty famous songs that we will know because it's pop-up music video. They were popular songs at the time. And I actually have a very interesting insight into how they picked which songs were going to go on the episode.
There we go.
So there we go. So for those unfamiliar with VH1 pop-up music video, the series featured old and new music videos with a twist. Each video played an info text and a pop-up little thing that would show up on the screen. And so it looked like a little thought bubble and little nuggets of information about the video, about the song, about the artist, factoids, postmodern, sarcastic things, just whatever they were thinking kind of pop. Some of them were trivia. Some of them were just kind of making fun of what was happening. Because if you look at some of the stills of music videos without anything around them, they can be ridiculous.
Sure.
They really can. So that's kind of what they're coming from. It was the highest for the time that it was on. It was the highest rated program on VH1, which doesn't surprise me. And then now it was followed up with Behind the Music, where they did the Behind the Music. That is now the number one, and it overtook. So it was originally produced by a company called Spin the Bottle and later by iBoogie, which I don't know why I thought that was random. It says for UK viewers, there was kind of like, I guess, a little bit of a background of this sort of thing in UK already before pop-up music video, even though the people who invented pop-up music were American. They said there was something called Box Pops on BBC Two. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Tim. And then the Chart Show, which showed on Channel 4.
Yeah, I remember the chart show on Channel 4 because there was a lot of people trying to get in on that Top of the Pops action. Yeah. There was a number of shows around that time that was similar. That said, there's that one on Channel 4. There was also one on ITV, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a similar thing. They were trying to get in on the world of Top of the Pops.
Fair. Okay. But there was a specific pop-up video that was released on Channel 4 as Pop-Up Video UK VH1, and it tended VH1, and I think they said it was VH1 UK and Europe was the channel. And it says the version featured more British-related music, so it would have been like Robbie Williams, the Spice Girls, Elvis Costello, whatever. So there was a version for the UK, and then eventually, I guess, some of the American episodes got like syndicated, and you could see them in the UK too. So they played them there as well. So with that being said, most of the episodes, so here's kind of how they selected what songs they were going to do. Hold on, let me bring it. Basically, they would have 4 songs. They would pick 2 that were popular, 2 that were a little older, and then 1 that was just kind of like a curveball. And that's
okay.
it. I mean, they didn't really put too much thought into it. I mean, it makes sense. Now, there were some artists, and we're going to get into this a little bit, who didn't like what pop-up music video had to say about them. And most of the things, Tim, are just absolutely stupid that made artists. And one of them is going to make me laugh because it's a person who is known, it's Billy Joel. He's known for being a little bit sensitive, I think. Like, he gets mad at people really easily. I feel like I've heard different bits about this. But anyway. So the pilot episode cost $3,000 to produce, and the first video played was Tina Turner's Missing You. Are you familiar with that song, Tim?
Yes, I am. And in fact, I think that was one of the songs I picked out on our Tina Turner tribute episode.
It probably was. I remember the music video was in black and white. I do remember that much, but I don't remember much else about the music video. There also was on the original episode, there was... Alanis Morissette was on there. And I think that's the only other one I saw. Oh, no, TLC's Waterfalls, which I don't think Tim knew until I forced him to listen to.
Well, I wasn't really sure. I'd heard of TLC. And in fact, the first time I ever went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, they had TLC's outfits with some kind of like illuminated belt buckle things that came from a video.
Yeah.
And I remember that, but I didn't really know their music. But there was one of those early episodes we did where you got me to listen to a load of albums, and TLC was one of them. And I remember I had it up on the TV in our front room, and Hannah said to me, "What are you listening to?"
She's probably like, this is not your normal soundtrack here, Tim. So with that being said, but that was a very specific music video. So I'm not shocked that they picked it because so you had like Left Eye Chili. I don't remember what the other one's name. The other member, I'm sorry, whoever Left Eye Chili, T-Boss, that was her name. And they were like up on like almost looks like a pedestal. And they were kind of like water, and like water was rolling around them. You know what I mean? Like it was a very distinct music video. So I could see how it could make it. And then the Alanis Morris set song was You Learn, which is very classic, angsty Alanis Morissette. And so with that being said, this is how they got the inside scoop on some of the music videos, Tim. I thought this was super interesting. So these two guys that invented it, they were originally actually on a TV show. It was like a late night TV show. Then they were on MTV. One of the guys got fired from MTV, apparently really badly. And 3 years later, they went to VH1. But what they said was they would call the crew that worked on the video. So they would call and talk with the cameraman, the guy that, you know, clicks the, I don't know, the people pushing stuff in and out and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they were getting the inside scoop. So, for example, they said with Alanis Morissette, You Learn, one, apparently she didn't smell very well.
Oh, goodness me.
And she spent the entire time she wasn't recording on speakerphone with her cell phone talking to her then boyfriend. So they did not have a great impression of her.
Interesting. Yeah, I did wonder because, I mean, I've seen pop-up video over the years. We had VH1 Europe, I think it was called, or just VH1, but it was a different version of VH1 for the UK European market because we had MTV Europe and then VH1 came along after. And they used to show pop-up video on there. And, now with the internet being as common as it is, this kind of behind-the-scenes tidbits are not unknown to be heard of. And you can go on IMDb or web forums or whatever. But you think when this was out, which was probably 90s, I suppose, it's like,
in America,
else?
It was 96 to 2002. Sorry, Tim, I didn't cut you off. I was just clarifying.
So where else would you get this information from? And I think that's genius, calling the crew to dish the dirt.
Because, I mean, if someone's a diva or someone makes... not a great impression. Usually who's the one that takes the blunt of it? The person having to push your heavy amp in and out the door, right?
Exactly.
Which we all know is a rookie mistake. The worst thing you can do is be mean to your crew. It'll come back to bite you.
Absolutely, 100%. That's why that whole Adele thing with Vegas and Caesar's Palace and all this stuff, when it turns out that she was being really snippy and rude to the crew, it's like, yeah, I don't have a lot of time for that.
Yeah, that's one of those things that like, and that's, yes, we're all here to see the artist. We love the music, but there's so much that goes into making a stage show that's not about the singer or about the musician or the drummer or any of that. There's
sure,
a lot of other stuff.
At all levels, absolutely at all levels. I mean, like you go and see a covers band and they don't have a manager or a booker or a roadie or whatever, but you might think, oh well, there's the bass player on stage, he's not doing a lot, and then you find out actually the bass player is the guy who's booked all the gigs, and the bass player is the guy that organized the practice, and the bass player is the guy that found the drummer and did this and did that. So you just don't know what goes on, and each part of that organization should be celebrated.
Huh. Yeah, I think you're right, Tim. And I think that's a really good point because you don't even think about at the small level, the medium level, and the large level. And it's just as much as the person who takes your tickets at the gate. Like there has to be somebody there doing it.
Sure, 100%.
But anyway, I digress. So we're going to get into some of the funny little things they've said about people and pop-up music videos. Let me pick which one was my first. Oh, and just to be clear, there was a reboot of it later in 2011. It didn't go on for very long. And then they did a trivia version where they asked quiz questions. I don't know if you've ever seen the trivia version, but I've watched that one as well. Though I couldn't get clear clarification if it came first or if it came like what time frame the trivia was. But at some point during the span of when they rebooted it, they had a trivia version.
Got you. Yeah, no, I've only ever seen the original pop-up music video.
Well, there you go, Tim. Now you know what you need to get on YouTube after this and look at. So I pulled up just some random things that were said or info. They called them info nuggets. So if I say nugget, I'm referencing what pops up in the video because that's what they called them at VH1. But these were just kind of, they said that at one point in time, they talked about actually making the little info nuggets handwritten. And so you would see a little paper pop up. But I guess they digressed and said that that wasn't a good idea. So with that being said, one of the first videos I want to talk about is, I'll just go into the Billy Joel one. So Billy Joel's Keeping the Faith music video. Are you familiar with that, Tim?
I don't know if I am. I know the song, but not necessarily the video.
So in the video, he's kind of dressed up like all very 80s snazzy, yuppie, I think is the term, yuppie kind of clothing, and he's got his like loafers on and his sports coat and that kind of thing. And he's going into a courtroom. But in the courtroom, it's like if they're singing and he's talking about keeping the faith. Well, I guess he got really upset and they eventually banned this clip from they wouldn't replay it or something on pop-up video because his children started getting made fun of in school from it. So in his defense, that does kind of suck. But because the song was Keeping the Faith, I guess him and his wife at the time had just divorced. And then the Nuggets said, well, you might be able to keep the faith, but she can't, alluding to her cheating.
Oh, dear. Goodness me.
And so they banned that one, and that's why he was upset. Now, this one, though, Tim will love, and we've talked about this music video. So this is Lionel. This is their favorite. Both the creators said this was their favorite pop-up music video, and I see why. It is Lionel Richie's Hello.
Yes, I would imagine there's lots of trivia and things to be said about that particular video. And the interesting thing about that video, that's probably one of the first videos that I remember that has words spoken over the music. Because normally, like a music video, anything that's depicted on screen, if there's audio, if it's in the street or there's like traffic noise or whatever, that is not depicted on the video. But this one has narration over the song.
Yep. So, and if you've seen the video, there's like that clay-made head of Lionel Richie's head.
Yep.
So apparently they got there and it looked nothing like Lionel Richie. And then some guy was supposed to make it. That's what they said was the best part. And that's what pops up as the fact about this. Some guy made it for the episode. And even though it didn't look anything like Lionel Richie, and they named some basketball player, it looked more like, I don't know the sports, Tim. But they said it looked more like this guy in the thing. And it goes right over the clay head of Lionel Richie. And then I guess there's another fact where the girl who's in the video is actually a Playboy Playmate. So what was her name? I don't remember, but apparently she's still considered this like her. She says she is known more for the video than for being a Playboy Playmate because the video is so iconic for Hello.
I would imagine so because, you model for a magazine and a whatever, and it comes and it goes, but this video hangs around forever.
And she's blind in the music video, so people in real life think she's blind.
Yeah, that's one thing. Shouldn't they have used a blind actor?
Yes. So with Tim, that's actually a big thing I'm an advocate for. There's a lot of people who say this. If someone has a disability in a movie or whatever, pick someone who actually has it.
Yeah, there's probably thousands of blind actors who could have done that part just as well.
Yeah, and looking back now, her name is Thompson. That was her last name. With that being said, I looked at if you go back and watch it, because I went back and watched it while I was researching this, she really isn't that convincing as a blind person. It's pretty bad. If you've never seen the music video for Hello, which the song in and of itself is basically another stalker song, the music video is pretty funny. They say that was their favorite and the best video that they could have put. Though I wonder, and I couldn't find any evidence of this, I'm surprised Dancing in the Street Dancing on the Ceiling, was it on there as well?
Yeah, Dancing on the Ceiling is another iconic Lionel Richie video where he's in this room and it's spinning around and it's like, oh no, Lionel's on the ceiling.
It's so bad. Like, I don't know who was the director for Lionel Richie, but I'm surprised that one didn't come up. But I couldn't find any evidence that they ever put it on pop-up music video.
Well, Joy, it was the 1980s and it was a very different time. So let's just say that.
Fair enough. So, Tim, apparently they preferred slower tracks. They said that anything that was too fast paced, they wouldn't put in the episode because they couldn't put the blurbs up fast enough for people to read them.
Mm-hmm.
Logical. So, because of that, and even in the revival, they avoided rap and hip hop because it was too fast. It was too fast moving for them to be able to put things up.
Well, that's the thing. I could say if someone's like rapping a fast lyric, you can't make a quip about it because it's going to be on the screen and off the screen in no time at all.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Another one that they said it is one of Tim's favorites was the Hot for Teacher music video.
Yes. Now, I'm familiar with this pop-up music video, and some of the information I know about the Hot for Teacher video actually came from pop-up music video.
Well, what do you know, Tim? Let's see if it's what I got.
Well, what I know is there's a scene where they're all doing like a synchronized dancing thing, and they're all dressed up in top hats and tails type thing. And David Lee Roth is at the front, and he's leading the pack, and the other three members of the band are all dancing in the background. Alex Van Halen, who is a drummer, who is probably one of the greatest rock drummers of all time. And in fact, I think like Modern Drummer magazine this week have put them in their Hall of Fame of being the greatest rock drummer of all time or something like that. So you think someone with that kind of kudos would have great rhythm. Certainly he does in the realm of drumming. In the realm of dancing and synchronizing his body, no. And ever since I've read that on pop-up music video, whenever it gets to that bit in Hot for Teacher, and you see, because at the back you've got Michael Anthony and you've got Eddie Van Halen, and they're following the dance moves. They're not trained dancers, but they're following the dance moves. And Dave, of course, he's the star of the show, and he's doing the dance moves perfectly. And in the middle of the three at the back, you've got Alex. He has no idea what he's doing. It's all over the place. He's got no rhythm. He's got no timing.
Yeah, that's basically what they have here too. and they're like, yeah, that one was hilarious because it is kind of funny, and that is one of the best things that I love, and I do it myself when I'm trying to make people laugh. Is when it's kind of like when me and Tim did the whole the meat, like the prize where you get like a what was it, a meat? What's the word I'm looking for?
A meat
Tim?
raffle.
Meat raffle. I kept thinking meat stick, and I'm like, that's not right. So what I would take the bits by bits when I'm trying to make a pun, where you're like, well, think about this situation and this situation. You scale it back to like the very bare of what it is, how inconvenient it would be to win a meat prize. And when you do that in music videos or you do that in movies, like one of my favorite YouTubers, she'll go through and count the boom mics she sees in early 2000s movies and reflections and different things like that. I love when people do that. So that's probably why I love pop-up music video. The other day I was watching a TV show and the camera crew was in the mirror, Tim, bluntly.
There is a James Bond film that I like. I think it's Man with a Golden Gun. I think there's a fight scene in it, and there's a mirror in the like dressing room where this is going on, and you can see the whole crew in the mirror.
It's like, how did no one notice before they put it out to the world? But I guess it is what it is. I mean, we all know it's a movie. Like, everyone knows it's a movie, but still, I like to go in and find those things. So another thing was, and I don't know, so the Wallflowers, and you know Jacob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son.
Yeah.
Apparently they tried to do and for me, I hate to say this, I think the Wallflowers were one-hit wonders.
I think so. I mean, they were trading on the fact that Jacob Dylan is Bob Dylan's son, I think. I mean, I have a few of their albums that I picked up in thrift shops in my CD collection. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good music, but it's not. I don't go back to it and think, wow, what am I going to listen to? Queen's Night at the Opera or the Wallflowers? I mean, it's okay.
So back to the point, though, is apparently they were told by the network they had to treat Jacob with kid gloves because he was Bob Dylan's son. And they revised their pop-up music video episode 5 to 6 times because they kept saying it was too harsh. VH1 kept sending it back to them. So it said, They couldn't, I don't think they ever ended up producing it, or if they did, they said it was a very watered down version. It got rejected 6 times from VH1 because they were being too harsh. Now, I'm trying to remember what the One Headlight music video looks like because I don't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember.
I mean, I know the song. It's very classic 90s one hit. See, like I said, I think of them as one hit wonders. And I don't even think I realized that Jacob Dylan was in the band until a few years back. Had no clue. I just thought they were one hit wonders.
That's interesting. And it's interesting that he took his father's stage name, not his real name, because his real name would be Zimmerman.
I mean, he wanted to become a famous musician. What better to market yourself than after your dad if your dad's Bob Dylan?
That's true. I mean, you got someone like Wolfgang Van Halen, where that is his name. But it's just interesting that he took his father's stage name.
I mean, yeah. So another one, Tim, we'll just move along here. That's probably not a shocker to you. They loved the pop-up music video. Was the music video for Aha, Take On Me.
Take On Me, yeah. This one, as we've said before, is considered in the United States a one-hit wonder, but in Europe and the UK and stuff, absolutely not.
Now, what they're saying is they loved it because they got to talk about the amazing animators behind it. Because, it's all a picture book. They said there was a lot of animators behind it. They got to talk about the people who, did all of that. And they thought it was cool to have an opportunity to learn about that part of it instead of just the musicians. And if you watch it, it says there were, they said that they ended up putting 75 different facts in it very quickly because it goes really fast, too. Mm-hmm. So there's, instead of, their normal 20 to 30 facts or different things, they said they ended up putting 75 nuggets or pops.
Wow, I'll have to go and find that because I may have seen it, but it didn't really register at the time. But yeah, I bet there's some interesting stuff because that is a very interesting video and concept. How you have the person sitting in the cafe flicking through the comic book, and then they sort of appear in the comic book, and half of it is like cartoon and half of it is film. In the computer age, it's very easy to do that. I could do stuff like that on my home computer, but you think when that was made in the 80s, it was all done with stop frame animation and someone had to draw all that.
Yeah, and he was saying that also apparently it took a really long time post-production to come out. Mm-hmm. And so there's a whole story there. He goes, normally whenever you're doing these pop-up music video things, you get to tell 2 or 3 little stories or tidbits, he said. But with this, there was so much detail that went into that. And he said it was actually kind of terrifying at the time because they're like, oh my God, we've got to get these in here quick and make sure it all fits and all this stuff. But he said, now look back, it's one of their favorite videos.
There we go. Yeah, I will definitely go and seek that one out.
All right. So this one just was kind of funny. So this one is Duran Duran's Rio.
Okay. Now, is this the one where they are on that boat? They're on a boat, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they are on a boat. Correct.
And the name of the boat, do you know the name of the boat, which was Simon Le Bon's racing sailing ship?
I do not.
The name of that boat was Drum.
Of course it was. Is it in the video? Does it say drum across the side of the boat?
I have no idea. It's a bizarre fact that's stuck in my brain.
Because it is weird. It's like when you hear somebody says, "Oh, my car's name is Sheila" or something. You're like, "Huh, interesting."
Yeah, but with boats, it's more common that you name a boat. I mean, some people do name a car, but it's not as common as naming a boat. I think boats have to have names, I think.
Well, with the fact you're about to learn about Duran Duran's Rio, might be why it was named Drum. So,
okay.
For Duran Duran's Rio, we were literally, this is the direct quote, pulling members out of rehab and sending them the music video trying to trigger their memories. And they had they did not remember making the video at all because there was so many drugs on set.
Oh, goodness me.
But Rio was the one. But Rio was the one where they lost the first 2 days of shooting because someone just left. So basically, they tried to shoot it, and they literally lost 2 days of shooting because they were at a bar instead of shooting it for the first 2 days.
It wouldn't surprise me. Again, it was the 80s. They were huge pop stars. And you know what? I've been listening to some Duran Duran recently. I went on for one of my walks because I've kicked my walking back up. And I listened to the Duran Duran album, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, which is what was considered one of their classic albums. And you know what? It's really good music. I mean, for many years, all I've had was the Decade album by Duran Duran, which is a best-of compilation. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, you delve into the albums, and that's good music.
I love Duran Duran. And you know what's kind of weird, Tim? Is there a band that really hasn't come up on the podcast very much?
No, it's surprising. I mean, they were big on both sides of the Atlantic. They've had iconic music videos. Their albums sold well. And I used to work with a lady whose cousin was Simon Le Bon. So I'm effectively related to the band. And yeah, I mean, they haven't really come up much.
Yeah. But they were one of the biggest. I mean, I don't know. I would say they've got at least 5-10 good hits you could probably think of off the top of your head.
I mean, if you bring up the Decade album, which is like their greatest hits compilation, it's amazing. And they had a Bond theme, View to a Kill.
Yeah. I don't know. So with that being said, I really like them, but I don't know why they had to come up on the podcast till now. But I guess I didn't realize that they had that much of a substance abuse problem. But what's interesting is they're saying it wasn't just the band; it was the crew and everybody.
Oh, it was the 80s, Joy. Everyone was indulging back then. How did anything in the creative field ever get done in the 1980s?
Anyway, so here's a random one. And I mean, it's speaking of one-hit wonders, because I was talking about the Wallflowers. Another one-hit wonder was, I think of them as that Semisonic's Closing Time. Mm-hmm. So apparently in the pop-up video, they pointed out that Semisonic is an anagram for I Miss Once. No one knows why, but then they said after that, they pointed out that both sides of the split screen video required 11 inches to sync up to one moment. What a very specific thing to point out.
Well, they must have spoken to the crew as they said they were, and that was like a fact that they got.
I guess so, but I mean, I wonder, but here's my question. Semisonic is the name of the band, right? Mm-hmm. And so if it's an anagram for I Miss Once, did they specifically put that in the video, or was that just a convenient thing that happened?
I think it sounds like just a convenient thing that happened.
And were they trying to say, I don't know. So anyway, with that being said, I just thought that was very, very, very specific. So a few of the other ones that I come across were apparently, you know, the Toy Soldiers video, Step by Step.
Mm-hmm. By Martika.
Yes. For some reason, and no one knows why, in her music video, all of the facts were incredibly mean-spirited, taking delight in comparing her to other successful people in music, and including that of Madonna. And there's they said that they've asked them and they don't know why, but for some reason, every single one of her pop-up music video things were mean-spirited. No, I don't know much about her. Did she have other songs?
Yeah, she had an album that I bought years ago. What did she? Let me give this a Google. Martika. She had What Happened to Martika? Blah 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 blah. Well, I can't remember the name. I think it was the. I can't find it quick enough, but I had an album of hers, and she did a cover of the song "I Feel the Earth Move." She did a song called, obviously Toy Soldiers. She had a number of hits.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know why. They just said that incredibly mean-spirited. And they even at one point put Madonna's face in there on a box of Weebles or a pair of Weebles. I don't know what a Weeble is.
I don't know
I guess
either.
It's a little toy that moves around. I just Googled it.
Okay.
It's like a little toy that kind of like moves around back and forth. And apparently in the video, it's like an egg that Weebles, you know what I'm saying, Tim? Like when you put an egg on a cat or how it rotate back and forth. I guess that's where it gets its name. But yeah, I guess one of these toys, maybe it's in the Toy Soldiers, because in the video there's probably toys, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But apparently at one point during the video, they put, when they're comparing her to Madonna, they put Madonna's face on the Weeble.
That's weird. Maybe she was just a nightmare to deal with or something. I don't know. And it was like we're trying to get back at. But I don't know. That's not quite so. That's not quite so cool.
People at pop-up music videos. So there were a few running gags if you've ever watched it. And I don't know. For example, like in Rico Suave, or I guess in Nina's 99 Air Balloons, different things like that. In America, if it was in English and someone turned around over their butt, they would just write the word butt. But whenever they did it in other languages, so like in 99 Red Balloons, or in Rico Suave, they would do it in the other language, so like Spanish or German or whatever. Whatever the equivalent was for that language. Another thing that I think is just really random, and I don't know why, these two things pop up during Madonna's "Express Yourself," which we all know. Video. It notes it is still illegal to federal express yourself. And then in another one, in George Harrison's "I Got My Mind Set on You," it just says this is not Jerry Seinfeld either. I don't know why. I don't know what Jerry Seinfeld has to do with George Harrison's "I Got My Mind Set on You."
Do you think that they look alike? Do you think late 80s George Harrison looks like Jerry Seinfeld? Is that what it is? I don't know.
I can't. Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just trying to see where they're coming from there.
Well, I'm not sure. So, with that being said, apparently they did admit to one mistake, and I'm sure there's a ton of others just because that's life. But it said in the Sheryl Crow's video, "Every Day is a Winding Road," they claimed she wore a blind wig while working as a backup dancer for Michael Jackson. When they featured another Sheryl Crow video, "My Favorite Mistake," they admitted their error and mentioned that she actually dyed her hair blonde.
Yeah, and she wasn't a backup dancer. She was a backup singer for Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling the whole quote is wrong. But anyway, that is the one that I kept finding that they admitted were wrong. Now, I'm trying to think of what comes to mind when I think of pop-up music video from my perspective. And like I said, I always think of Bohemian Rhapsody, even though I can never stand to hear that song again, just because it's overplayed. Now that it's a good song. But I always think of Tina Turner, which makes sense because I said she was in the first episode. Hot for Teacher. That one's a big one that comes to mind. And then when they redid it in the early 2011, I did watch it, and you got more of like Britney Spears and stuff like that. Like "Oops, I Did It Again." I'm sure you've seen that music video, Tim, where she's in the red outfit. Very iconic Britney video. Pretty sure that played on pop-up music video at least 10 times.
Yeah, I was not aware of the reissue. I just remember the original version when we had VH1.
I mean, maybe I don't know. It kind of all bled together, but I definitely think I did see at least one of some of the new ones, because the videos were later. Of course, I don't know, because it ran till 2001, which means I would have been in middle school, and Britney was out by then. Who knows? But I don't think "Oops, I Did It Again" was later. Not that any of this matters whatsoever. But this is kind of random, and I'm not sure what the epithet or point is really, but apparently in the song "Return to Innocence" by Enigma. Are you familiar with that song, Tim?
I am indeed, yes.
They put a nugget at the beginning, so the little pop-up set regular nuggets to appear with a reverse version of the stand-up effect. So every time it did it, it was reversed for that, maybe because Enigma, it's an Enigma.
Could be, I don't know.
And then put regular nuggets in a reverse order and ended the video with a standard intro info. And so they did it all backwards for that specific song. And then they did it again in the 2011 revival for Coldplay's "The Scientist."
Maybe it was just the kind of music it was, or the way that the music video was done. They thought, well, we're just going to be a little bit wacky. I
mean, I think that maybe it's a play on the scientist thing. Enigma,
because all scientists do things in reverse, obviously.
I don't know. I got nothing, Tim. So, and another one, and I think Tim may have mentioned this on, I feel like this fact has come up on the podcast before, maybe not. But in Michael Jackson, the Jackson Family's video, 1984 Torture, apparently Michael Jackson is played by a wax dummy from Madame Tussauds in London because the real Jackson didn't show up for filming.
Interesting.
Did you not tell me that once before, or did I learn it somewhere else?
No, you must have learned that somewhere else. I mean, I know the song Torture because it appears in a season 4 Knight Rider episode, and that's probably where I know it from the most.
I can't think of what the music video looks like, though. But I mean, I guess if there's just a few little, like, you know what I mean, scenes of them around, and you don't really zone in on it, you might not pick up on that as a wax dummy. But a lot of people didn't know that until it was on pop-up video.
Yeah, it's like the fact about Culture Club. I think it's Karma Chameleon, or it could have been one of their other songs. I can't remember, but I think it is Karma Chameleon, where the bass player in the video is not the bass player. It's the bass player's brother, because the bass player was too hungover to attend the video shoot.
I have to be honest. I don't drink anymore. It's been a long time since I've drank. I stopped in the last few years because I'm growing up, Tim. But with that being said, I'm finally growing up. With that being said, I think if I were hungover, the last place I'd want to be is on a music set for a video with lights and sounds and
sound and never-ending takes. And, it's going to be, it's a 4-minute production that's going to take you maybe 2 complete days to do. And you're going to hear that same song over and over and over again. Okay, can we just redo this bit? Now, can you face forward rather than face towards the side? We're just going to and run tape. And then you're going to do and cut. Okay, now, I want to try this with different lighting. So we're just going to move the light in the other side. It's going to take us about 20 minutes to reset. I mean, that's bad enough on a regular day, but you imagine being like horrifically hungover.
Hungover or just sick in general. Like, you know what I mean, Tim? Even food poisoning would be terrible.
Oh, crikey.
Now, I have learned, I have a fear, speaking of this, that I didn't know I had, Tim. And it has never really came to my mind until a YouTuber I was watching said this happened to her. I had never had the fear of getting food poisoning on a plane. Until like an actual, like, full force food poisoning on a plane.
Yeah, I would hate that. I've had food poisoning twice in my life. One time when I lived in Hampton, which is just down the road from like sort of Isleworth, Hounslow, around that kind of way. And one time in Orlando, Florida. And both times were horrifically terrible. So
I have had like the traveler's like stomach and stuff whenever you travel, Tim, like sometimes your stomach will have to adjust to different foods and things, especially since America has a different way of like stuff that's in our food is a lot different than what you're going to find in other cultures and things of that nature. So when I was 16 was the first time I went, because I went with my French club when I was studying. First time I went to Spain, Germany, France, and I was fine the entire time we were there. I don't know if I accidentally, because one thing they tell us, and this is not that I think that the water, there's microbes in the water that if you're not used to, you know what I'm talking about, Ted, you're not supposed to drink it from the tap and things like that. I don't know if I got some water or what, but I remember the 16-hour flight home as we were approaching. Thankfully, it hit me like kind of after I had been on the plane for a while. I started feeling worse and worse and worse. And then when I got, because we landed in Charlotte, which Tim's been in Charlotte Airport, and he knows about where we live at now. So he knows it's a pretty good drive between Charlotte and here. It's a few hours. I had to take a school bus in the heat in the middle of July back from a 16-hour flight where I was already feeling bad. And you know what school buses in America have? There's no AC on those.
No, they have like just the little windows at the top.
Yeah, you can't even open the whole window because they're scared kids will jump out or put a hand out. I don't know. So with that being said, I remember when I didn't like get sick, but I just felt icky. Like I felt bad. And when I finally got home, my mom and dad were at the school to pick us up to drive us, once the buses got back to the school. And mom and dad were like, you look terrible. And I'm like, I feel terrible. And I went home and I slept for probably good 48 hours and didn't eat anything. My stomach wasn't like sick, but I was enough that I just didn't feel well. And that was hard enough. I cannot imagine being in a tin can in the sky with full food poisoning.
It's terrible. I mean, the worst one I had is when I was in Orlando, Florida, and it was just the food poisoning effects were just beginning. And we had tickets for the gospel brunch, which is like a huge feast.
Why is it always when you've got something good going on?
Yeah,
too?
And I barely wanted to eat anything. It was terrible. And then the very next day, I was so wiped out from that. The whole day was terrible. But the good thing about the food poisoning, if there's one good thing about it, our plan was we were supposed to go to Kennedy Space Center the day that I was unwell. And we decided, obviously, that we weren't going to go. So we spoke to the hotel and we booked an extra night in the hotel because we thought we were all the way down here in Florida. We didn't want to waste a day. So we added an extra day to our trip. So we went to Kennedy Space Center one day later than we had planned. And as a result, we got to see a SpaceX launch when we were there. And if we'd have gone the day we thought that would have never happened.
See, it all comes full circle, Tim. But yes. I recently learned that is my fear in life, Tim. Oh, and another thing, for those of you who listen to this podcast, if you are still in your drinking days or you like to drink occasionally, whatever it is, if you plan like a bachelorette or they call them like hen parties, right, Tim? In the UK, they're called like hen parties. I can give you some life advice. I've seen on the interwebs a few times that people have recommended, don't do this. Do not I don't know what it is about America, but for some reason, the second day, like when you're in Vegas or whatever it is in Florida, they feel the need to book a boat ride the dead night after a bachelorette party.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I mean, you know me, I get incredibly seasick. And I think on my best day with the most calm stomach I could ever have, being on a boat would not be good. But yes, you're right. You're going to have some kind of like massive night out with food and booze. Everyone the next morning is not going to have slept well and going to be feeling rough. And it's like, yeah, let's go on a boat.
And like I've seen on TikTok people sharing like everybody just laying on the boat, not moving. Like, so there's my best advice to you. Not that has anything to do with a music video. So I thought this was funny. Are you familiar with the Counting Crows, Tim?
Yes, I am.
So Mr. Jones, Big Yellow Taxi, blah, blah, Accidentally in Love. So with that being said, you know how he has those big, dreadlocks, the lead singer, Adam? Apparently, they pointed out in pop-up music video and multiple videos of the Counting Crows that those are, in fact, hair extensions and not his real hair.
There we are. But ladies and gentlemen, this is rock and roll. You were effectively an actor and playing the part. So, I mean... whatever.
You mean to tell me, Tim, that the Kiss doesn't always have stars on their eyes?
No.
I feel like my favorite Kiss makeup is Peter Criss.
Yeah, the cat.
The cat is my favorite. I think it's cute.
Did we cover this a little while ago? Are you familiar with Mac Sabbath?
No. So if we did cover it, I don't remember.
All right. So Mac Sabbath are a fast food themed Black Sabbath tribute band.
Yeah, I've never heard these words before.
All right. So the singer dresses like Ronald McDonald, but he has all the actions of Ozzy Osbourne. The bass player is Grimace, and he's in a huge, massive Grimace suit playing bass. And then the guitar player is Mayor McCheese with a huge Mayor McCheese hat, but it has the Motorhead horns coming out of it. But where this ties into what you was just saying, the drummer is the Hamburglar, but he's twisted it up a bit, and he's the Cat Burglar. So he has the Peter Criss cat makeup, but his suit is the Hamburglar. And then they play, I said, Black Sabbath parody songs in the realm of fast food. And my favorite one is when they do Iron Man. He goes, "I have frying pan." If you've never come across Mac Sabbath, look them up on YouTube. They are incredibly hilarious. And there is a video on, I think, one of these Ozzy Osbourne TV shows where Ozzy's son takes him to see Mac Sabbath.
I'll say Ozzy Osbourne probably loves it.
Yeah, and they goes in the room and he's like, what is this? And then they start and he's like going, I have frying pan. And he thinks it's the funniest thing he's ever seen in his life.
I mean, I would enjoy that. If it were my, like somebody, I see, and I understand sometimes like certain musicians get upset when they get like parodied or something because the song means a lot to them, blah, blah. If I got parodied, that would mean I made it. Like, I would love it.
Oh, 100%.
Regardless of what it was.
Yeah, and as we've said before, you know, when you get parodied by Weird Al, effectively you've made it in the music industry. But yeah, I would say to everyone, check out Mac Sabbath because it is utterly ridiculous but great at the same time.
Fair enough. All right. So I don't want to leave it on this sad fact. So I'm trying to find another fact, but we got about two. I'm going to give us two more things, Tim, because I know we're getting close.
Okay.
Sadly, you know, they pointed out in the song Blinded by Science that, you know, by Thomas Doley, that in fact, 11 million animals a year are actually blinded by science.
I hate that. I really do.
What? I could have lived my whole life without ever knowing that.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with animal testing at all. Well, I mean, it depends. If it's something that can save the human race, if it cures cancer or something, I mean, it's still difficult to comprehend, but I can see why someone would do that. But like if you're testing cosmetics and stuff, you don't do that. You don't do that at all.
Well, and I think that one thing that I've learned in my kind of where my degrees in science and different things that I've learned as I've gotten older is also what they test on animals for, like, you know, medical reasons. I understand what Tim's saying. We have to figure out, you know, different things, cancer, diabetes, AIDS research is made when it's no longer a deficit. It's the way it used to be. And I'm sure that there was some animal research in that. Right?
Sure.
Good things. But a lot of times people will read like studies and stuff like that and assume that what happens in animals is what's going to happen in humans. And that's not even remotely true on the flip side. Like what happens in a test tube is not what happens in real life.
Sure.
And so like, I struggle with it because it's like, yeah, I mean, we need it, but you'll read these out and then you'll realize that like not a whole lot came out of it because of that. And I'm like, but there were animals involved in this.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, if you have to do it because it's something that's going to save humanity or further humanity by curing cancer or something, that's one thing. But if they're just doing it for the sake of doing it, I don't like that.
Well, I guess what I'll do is to try to make this happy, to end it on a good note. Did you know about the guy from American Idol that did the Sheep Eggs? That song. Have you ever heard about that, Tim?
I know Ricky Martin.
Well, the original. So I guess in the 2011 revival, which none of us really talked about, they did the song She Bangs by Ricky Martin, but they put a little factoid over it about the guy from American Idol who sang it.
Okay.
And it was kind of like a nice way of to come back and like make things better, because I guess they had made comments earlier in one of the previous episodes about a Ricky Martin song. They took that out. So it was really about Ricky Martin's personal life, and I won't go into details because this is a podcast. But if you know about Ricky Martin, you know he was married to a man. So I guess in the original pop-up music video to She Bangs, they made a comment about, you know, oh, she bangs, but, you know, da-da-da-da. Yeah. Insulting him. So when they brought it back in 2011 to make amends, they made it about the guy who sang it on American Idol.
Okay. I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, that's probably the right thing to do, I suppose.
I'm surprised they let him use it again. I mean, I don't know how that works or how they get access to the video, but I feel like if it were me, I'd be like, just leave me out of it.
I think it's fair use because it's seen as a parody type thing. I don't know how it works, the legality of that. I don't know.
Well, whenever we find out, we'll let you know. All right, Tim. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say to the people? Because I'm pretty sure we've probably reached our end rope here.
Yeah, I would like to say just be kind to everybody that you meet.
Exactly. And bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.